Hey y'all, today we're going to be painting these little lovebirds, and I'm doing this one on an artboard instead of a canvas because I've been going through a lot of canvases today, and sometimes you just want to paint something and you may not want to use something big, and that's okay. So I started with this simple little tracer. You just put your carbon paper shiny side down and just trace over whatever it is you're painting. And I got a few stray marks. Now you can erase those because it's just graphite paper, just like a pencil lead would be. But I'm not even gonna, well, yeah, I guess I will erase them. I don't want them showing through. They would probably just paint over. They're not wanting to come off today anyway. So, yeah, I guess I will just leave them this time. But the first thing I'm going to do, just so I don't have to be real particular with going around the birds with the background, I'm going to take this little acrylic paint pen right here, and I'm just going to, if I can get the paint coming out, I'm going to trace around them so I can get a black line to show through. I should have checked these before I started. If I have to, I can use a Sharpie. A Sharpie works pretty well just as good. But yeah, that paint's coming out of that one. So I'm just going to trace around these with the paint pen just so the black line is a little darker and I don't have to worry about, I can just run over the black lines with the other colors of paint that we're using, and it just goes quicker that way if you don't have to worry about messing up your tracer. And I think that's going to be plenty dark enough that we won't have to worry about that. Let me see if I can, yeah. And we'll go back and fill these in a little bit, but we're going to work on the background first with all those pretty pinks and yellows. I haven't tried this one before, so I'm hoping I can get mine to turn out as cute as the example is. But I'm starting out with this color called Cactus Flower. It's by Decoart. And as you can see, I'm just using an old plate that I've used a bunch of other times. And I'm also going to put down some white just for blending the colors and making some variations of those. And then let's do some Joyful Pink. That's one of my favorites. I love the Joyful Pink. And I'm probably getting too much paint because I'm used to painting on a bigger canvas, and we're just using the little artboard today, but it'll be okay. Perfect Perry. And also a little bit of this Sunset Gold. And we're just going to more or less work it around till we like it. Now, see, in the very center on the example, it's what is the lightest color. I probably also should have cleaned up my workspace before we got started. My whole craft room needs a good going over, but just have not gotten to that yet. So I'm just taking just a little bit of the Cactus Flower, a little bit of the white, and I'm just kind of working it in here in the very middle, and we're just going to kind of get darker as we go out. Just doing that little flip-flop motion. I can't talk today. It's kind of like a figure eight, but just kind of back and forth, And then as we get out here, I'm going to add in, this time, just a tiny bit of pink and more, a tiny bit of white and more of the pink. And just, again, just that little flip-floppy motion. And if your paint is not spreading as well as you would like, you can always just take a fine spritzer and just give it a little spritz there. That just sometimes helps the paint to blend a little bit better. And as you can see, I'm going all over the birds here. But we're not worried about that because we've traced over them to the point that you can see, you're still going to be able to see the lines when it comes time to paint them. So while that's still kind of wet, I'm just going to dip a corner in the Joyful Pink and a corner in the Cactus Flower and start working around like that and just blending and blending till we like it. I don't really want to see the brush strokes in the middle if we can help it. I'm trying to kind of, let me get some more white there and just kind of work that in around the birds a little bit more. That's helping it come together, I think. Just a little more white sometimes is just what you need. It's just kind of, I guess you could say, an ombre effect. But it's just mostly just blending those colors until it's just a soft, pastel-y background, kind of like maybe it's at sunset or something. So I think that's pretty well blended. So maybe just a little bit more white. And I hope I'm not going until I don't like it. Sometimes I don't have the good sense to just stop when it's enough, but anyway. Now, you can kind of see how that just came together, just real soft. It's lighter in the very center. And so now I'm just going to kind of come into these corners with some of the Sunset Gold. And we're still going to use the pinks. And I'm going to do some white there too, because I don't want that Sunset Gold to be like overwhelming or anything. But just that same little motion, just a little back and forth that we've been doing. We're just blending and blending and blending some more. And that's kind of where it's kind of fun and relaxing to me, to just work that around till you like it. You don't even really have to think too much about this part of it. Just let the brush do the heavy lifting for you. And you can even dip the edge of the brush in a little bit of water to blend that out some more if you want to. And again, you can spritz it just a little bit to kind of just make it a little softer where those colors are meeting up. And mine is not going to be just like the example painting, and I don't necessarily want it to be just like that. In this corner, I'm just going to take a little bit more of this darker Joyful Pink, and I left a little bit of the yellow on my brush. I didn't even rinse between, to just pick up some hints of the yellow too. Just bringing that all together. And I'm going to dip just a little. And maybe at this corner, just bring in just a hint of that Perfect Perry mixed with a little bit of the Joyful Pink. So I'm just doing one corner with the Perfect Perry and one corner with the Joyful Pink, and just blending that together. Just think about the colors of the sky at sunset. I noticed last night I was headed over to my parents' house, and there was so much pink in the sky. It was just really pretty. Just give that a little bit of a spritz and just keep. But yeah, there were some clouds and some pink, and it was just beautiful last night. So that's what I'm kind of thinking of as I'm doing this background. And every time I see a sunset like that, not to mention lots of other things in nature, I just can't help but remember how good God is to us. He didn't have to make things pretty. It could have just been functional, but He's a creative God, and He just loved us enough to give us a beautiful world. And it just makes me real thankful when I think of that. Take it for granted too often. So again, without rinsing, I'm going to take a little bit more of the yellow and just get in here a little bit more. And if some of that purple comes into that, well, that's great. That's what we want, just to get a good blending of all those colors. Gonna spritz right there a little because it's not wanting to smooth out as much as I would like. I never realized until recently just how useful a water bottle to spritz with can be. But it's good to have around. So let's get a little white there, and again, this is just something I'm really not I kind of know the look I'm going for, but this is basically just play with it till you like it. Till you have just the right blend of your colors, and I think I'm going to have to go back in the middle with even more white, because I've kind of got them maybe even over blended a little bit right now. So just going to lighten up that in the middle a little bit more. But again, this part is just really relaxing and just good for you, I think. To me, anything creative is it's just real calming and healing, and sometimes we get too busy to be able to use our creativity as much as we would want to. But sometimes it's nice to just carve out some time to do that. Okay, let's see. And down in this corner, just a little bit more of that joyful pink, I think. And maybe even some of the Perry. A little bit anyway. And then we may just do some swipes here and there in a minute, just to give some little vibrant pops of color. And this part, you're just kind of working. It's almost a dry brush by the time you've done a lot of this, because you're just kind of brushing and tapping and bringing it all together until you can just hardly even see any brush strokes, I guess is the thing. You want it just real smooth and pretty and soft. Soft, I guess, is the best, is the main word I'm looking for. Just making sure no part of the canvas is peeking through. Just getting all that just very well covered. And I think the gold, the sunset gold on this side, is giving it that sunsetty feel a little bit. Okay, I think that's good enough. And I'm not worried about the edges of this. A lot of times I don't even cover the edges on my canvas, but it bothers some people. Sometimes it bothers me, but this one is so thin. I'm certainly not gonna stress about not having the edges covered. You can barely even tell, but there is how it looks with the little blended background. And I'm gonna post just a picture on my Facebook page too, so you can kind of see. That just looked like a little bit of the canvas was trying to peek through, and I was just covering that up. I have actually decided not to do much of the bold streakiness here. Maybe just a little bit with the yellow, like the light's hitting it, but I'm going to tap most of the paint off of my brush before I do just a couple little streaks here and there. I just don't want to go overboard with that. Again, with the paint, just you can bring some of that in. I don't know though if I'm loving that or if I just liked it better. I should have just left it alone, but it's okay. Just gonna take a little bit of white, tap that off, same thing, just kind of work that in. And this is the kind of thing, you know, you can just do it any way you want to. And, but sometimes I keep going when I really should have stopped. And I think I liked just the nice little soft look that it had. And now I've done all this. But that's a good thing. Even if you're wishing you hadn't have done something, you can always it's just paint. This acrylic is very forgiving, and you can blend back over it to bring it back to something that you love. And you might even like it better than you did before. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling. Sometimes I get going and I don't know when enough is enough. But yeah, I think that's going to be... I guess the moral of the story, just make it as streaky as you want to, or as blended as you want to. It's all up to you. It just depends on what you want and what you like. But this time I am done for real, for real. I'm going to make myself not do any more to that background. I think we are done. So, for the birds, I believe that this paint is thin enough that it is dry enough to go in with the black to do the birds. And for that, I'm just going to use my small flat brush. Let's see. Well, I don't see the one that I wanted. Yeah, there it is. I'm probably going to use these two. This little one to get in the little areas and the bigger one to fill in a little bit. I can do it all with this 1/4 inch one. Let's see. And just slide the edge down along the curves. Stand it up on its edge to do around the head and everything. Just, again, let the brush do the work for you. Because getting in those little places can be tricky, but if you turn the brush just the right way, it does make it just really a whole lot easier. So just make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush as you go around these edges, because you'll get a little like a little raised line if you do. So sometimes I start in the center till I get, or toward the middle till I get some of the paint off the brush. But just fill that in good, and we may have to go back with another layer. We'll just see how that looks once it's dry. And just up on the side to go down that end, and you know, don't bear down too hard and make it spread where you don't want it. And then just fill in. And I think this 1/4 inch brush is doing good enough. I don't think I'm even going to have that little brush. If you go out of the line just slightly like I did, you can blend it back in just slightly like that. It is not a big deal. And then I think I'm actually going to turn the canvas so I don't get my arms in it. I am so bad about messing up what I've already painted when I run my hand or my arm through it. So I'm going to try not to do that. Just see, I went out of the lines just a little bit right there, but it's not a big deal. You can just paint a little bit higher than that and fix it. Maybe not with everything, but most things have got enough wiggle room that just a little tiny little bit of out of the line can be fixed without having to to paint over any of the background or anything, although I have had to do that. The thing about this, though, I think it would be harder to fix the background since it is so blended, and to get it back the way it looks now. So I'm trying to be a little bit careful. And I've still got my picture, my inspiration picture, or the picture that I'm going by anyway, set up here, because I'm going to need it, I think, when I start the branches. The branches are going to just be kind of free-handed in. And so I'm going to need something to go by. Because if I don't, and I am going to use that little brush on this beak, if I don't have something to go by, I'm going to probably end up going, I don't know, either going crazy with the branches and having way too many, or having them just going every which way, which I guess branches could go every which way. But anyway, so get the rest of that little tail done. That reminds me of grown-ups telling me when I was little that if I could throw salt on a bird's tail, I could catch it. Did anybody ever tell you that when you were little? So I spent a lot of time, gullible as I was, trying to throw salt on birds' tails. Isn't that crazy? But we grew up out in the country and there wasn't a whole lot to do, so I guess it was worth a try. And then a lot of the time, one thing I liked to do was catch little wild kittens. My grandmother had a old mama cat that would have kittens under the house every year, and I'd lay out there on my belly waiting for them to come out from under and trying to lure them out with food and just anything I could think of. And I'd finally catch one and kind of get it gentled down a little bit, enough that it wasn't trying to claw me up and escape. And sometimes my mom would even let me bring it in the house, but just about the time I would think I had it to where I could pet it and love on it without it freaking out, she'd say, well, it's getting close to dark, you better turn that thing back out, because they were not about having animals in the house. So I'd have to let my kitten go and start all over the next day. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another coat on this other birdie. I wish I could say trying to put salt on a bird's tail was the worst thing that I did with salt growing up, but sadly I did another thing that's, thinking about it now, pretty cruel, and I wish I hadn't done that, but somebody had told me that salt would melt slugs, and so my grandmother had a privet hedge beside her house that had grown up like big as a tree, and I would climb up in there with the salt shaker and melt slugs, and who knows, well, I guess I was just a weird kid. I don't know even why I did that, but that's so mean. But anyway, how did I get to talking about that? I do not know. Some trips down memory lane, I don't know. Or dead ends, I think. But I keep talking about my grandmother's house, but she, you know, they they're the ones that took care of us while our parents worked, so it was a blessing to have them always around. We lived next door most of my growing up years, not all, but just a good childhood. Okay, so there are the birds. Now I'm going to try to just do a little bit of a highlight. While that's still a little damp, I'm going to take, if I can find it, I don't think I laid it out. There it is. It's a color called Sand Gray. And it's just very, very light. And I'm just going to use it with some of the black to just give a tiny bit of highlight along the bird's back and tail. So I'm just dipping a little bit of the sand gray and a little bit of the black and tapping most of it off my brush. And then I'm just gonna look like that had some pink still on it, but anyway. And just like we did with the background, you're just gonna blend that till it feels right. I think I had too much on that one, so I'm just going to take some more black and just go back through to, might put just a little tiny bit on his head too, just to make the birds look not quite so flat black. Just not much highlight at all, but just a tiny little bit. Okay, so now for the branches. And I'm actually not even gonna rinse. Well, yeah, because I just had a little bit of sand gray on there. But I'm not, mostly it was black anyway. And if the branches have a little bit of variation, then that's okay. That's all good. But to start them, just so I don't get all messed up, I'm going to start with just this little liner brush. And then we can thicken them up in spots. So to make it look like it's just coming right up under the bird, we'll start right here at his tail and just go like this and drop it and come right up under the other little bird. And then we'll take these branches up and let them fork out a little bit. And then bring one from here kind of down to the bottom. And then I think over here we'll do one that comes up from the very bottom of the canvas and just kind of does its thing up here. And we'll go back in and we'll work on these a little bit and just kind of fill them in and make them look a little better. I don't want them to look too uniform, I guess is I feel like I have done that with these, so I'm trying to figure out what to do to kind of give them some variation. So I'm kind of thinking, but it really doesn't matter. I think it's one of those things that when you're right up on it, you worry about it, but it kind of, by the time the eye is tricked by all these black lines, it's all going to be all right. I am going to give this one a little bit more going on. Okay. So now we'll just go in, and I'm just going to keep using this little liner and rinse that black 1/4 inch. But I'm just going to kind of fill in where these are looking a little sparse. And we're actually almost done. I'm just going to do this, and then the next step is optional. You can make some little hearts if you want to make it like a Valentine painting, but you don't have to do that. It's fine either way. Just filling in a little here and there. And I may need a little bit more highlight on the bird's tail to kind of differentiate it from the, I know what I'll do. I'll just bring the tail a little farther down. He'll just have a little bit of a longer tail than the girl bird. Just so it doesn't just blend in too much with the branches. And then I'm going to turn the canvas just so I can get in there without getting my big old hand in everything. And if you have some little places that look a little but I guess what I'm trying to say, it doesn't need to look just necessarily like a straight line. If there's some bumpy places, that's just the knots in the wood. That is not a problem. So don't stress over this part at all. Just some graceful lines for limbs. And I think I'm about to quit before I, once again, get it to where I don't like it anymore. Okay. Yep, I think that's about it for the limbs. There's that. I think I maybe did get a little carried away with them up here, but that's all right. Limbs grow all different kinds of ways. And I believe I am going to do the hearts just because it's close to Valentine's Day, and that's just kind of cute. So let me see if I can find me a little bitty brush to do that. Well, this one's not tiny, but I think it'll do. I believe it is a number 4 brush. And I'm just going to use some more of that Joyful Pink that we started out with to just make some little loose hearts here and there. Basically just in a V, and then you can fill that V out just a little bit if you want to. And that paint had gotten a little bit dry, but it's not so much that I can't use it. And I really haven't booked much for spring yet. I stayed really busy almost right up until Christmas, and I just had to take a step back and catch my breath, I guess you could say. But I'm about ready at least to do some small groups, maybe even bigger ones. So if you would like to paint this with some of your friends and you'd like for me to come and do a paint party for you, just let me know. You can message me on Facebook. I think I have I'll link my page with this video. If you're local to the Piedmont, Jacksonville, Anniston, Oxford, Alabama area. And I'm still working on a place to have paint parties, but right now I don't have anywhere to have people to come, so it's kind of like when you book a party, you kind of provide the place to be. So I've done a good many parties with church groups and things like that. A couple of, or one D-Life group, a small group. That was fun. But also, if you don't want to do a paint party, you can just get the tracer for this. I'm going to have it in on my Shopify store. And you can just, I don't know if I'll get it on there today. I'm going to try, but it'll be in there by the end of the week. And you can just do it at home, at your leisure, in your pajamas even, if you feel like it. Just whatever you want to do. So I'm just putting these hearts just randomly here and there, just basically a V, and then making it a little thicker. And I actually think I'm done. I think that's as many hearts as I want. You can put more if you want to, but I think I'm all done. And so I just never can get that straight in the camera. But I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate you watching. Hey, Rhonda, I just saw you in here. Good to see you. But like I said, I'll put this tracer on my Shopify site, and I'll link it on my Facebook page. And I'll see y'all next time.